as of the 2024 season, we're going to see Top Thrill 2 open at Cedar Point over in Sandusky, Ohio in the USA. This opened as Top Thrill Dragster originally in 2003 as the first ever world strata coaster, the first coaster over 400 feet, standing at 420 feet tall with a 400 feet drop and 120 miles per hour. Unfortunately, the coaster was plagued with a lot of mechanical issues, typically to do with the hydraulic launch on the coaster, and over the past few years did unfortunately have an accident. And as I've said before, this is going to be now completely revamped and reopening as Top Thrill 2, which is removing the hydraulic launch originally implemented onto the ride by Intamin and actually being replaced by an LSM launch from Zamperla. Now, there have been many problems amongst other hydraulic launch coasters in the world, these Intamin accelerator coasters as they are known as, and that has led to a lot of speculation about what is going to happen to the other accelerator coasters that use these hydraulic launches at theme parks all across the world. Obviously, here in the UK, I'm mostly a UK-based channel, we have Stealth. This is a 2006 Intamin accelerator coaster standing at 205 feet tall, and that begs the question to me, will we ever see Stealth actually retrofitted with LSMs in the same way that we've seen Top Thrill 2 be converted from Top Thrill Dragster? So in this video we're going to be discussing about potential future of Stealth and what that means for the ride. You know, are we going to see the same treatment that Top Thrill 2 is getting with these LSM coasters, LSM launches I should say, being added to the ride, or is this going to be a different future to Top Thrill Dragster and the process that has undergone? If you do enjoy today's video, please do give it a like, it massively helps out the channel, and subscribe to the channel for more videos on Thorpe Park in the future and more roller coaster and theme park speculation, because here as enthusiasts, what do we love to do? Nothing more than talking about coasters and other rides and attractions in theme parks, of course. So, as I said then, Stealth. This is a 2006 Intamin accelerator coaster. This isn't as long or anywhere near as tall as Top Thrill Dragster, but you know, a lot of these accelerator coasters do follow the same sort of layout in a way that we do. There are obviously other ones, you know, just look here in the UK. We have Rita over at Alton Towers. That's slightly different. That's, you know, doesn't follow the typical layout of these rides, you know, with the launch into the top hat and then into the brake run. That has a more complete layout in a sense, but I think we can agree that Stealth at least is definitely a lot more thrilling than Rita. And the rides of this type that do have that top hat do provide a better ride experience, even though it's typically a lot shorter. You know, you get some absolutely fantastic airtime, and experiencing that launch is fantastic. So let's look at some of the stats of Stealth first before we get into the topic. It's 1,312 feet of track, height of 205 feet tall, and a top speed of 80 miles per hour, with one of the most intense launches anywhere in the world, a Intamin hydraulic launch to 80 miles per hour in 1.8 seconds. These coasters are very intense, and this was I don't want to say it was before its time, but in a way I think it was. The hydraulic launch coasters were absolutely fantastic when they were built in the early 2000s. You know, this was a technology that, you know, at the time, launches were, you know, tire driven or weight driven. You look at some of the Schwarzkopf launch coasters that were around at the time. You know, launches had started to make their way around, but you know, this was a very new technology that allowed coasters to be absolutely thrusted to insane speeds very quickly. You know, look at some of the other accelerator coaster stats out there compared to Stealth. You know, Stealth is one of the top end ones, but even ones like Rita, you know, that's considered a slightly slower and less intense launch on these Intamin accelerator coasters. But even then, you know, that is a very powerful, very intense launch. It gets you to that top speed very quickly, and it really thrusts you back in your seat when you ride that coaster. Like I say, that this was a very unique technology at the time. And because of that, even though that created these coasters that had that very powerful, very intense launch and was able to give riders fantastic experiences on these different coasters, as we all know, whenever a new concept coaster opens, there is often a lot of issues with that. You know, whenever a new coaster opens at a park, especially if it's a world's first sort of thing, that's often seen with a lot of maintenance issues for the first year or two of operation, whilst the park tries to iron out all of these things. You know, that can be train problems, it can be track problems, it can be launch problems, whatever it is, whatever the new technology is. We have often seen lots of maintenance issues and even parks having to, you know, get the manufacturers out there again to come and make changes to the rides. And unfortunately, you know, over the past few years, we've really seen a lot of issues with a lot of these accelerator coasters. A lot of them have had to be potentially relocated to other parks or shut down because you know, this is a technology we're now moving away from by moving into launches with LSMs, That's typically the most common launch system these days, these linear synchronous motors. We see the likes of Intamin and Mack Rides using that a lot. We have seen LIMs used in the past. Companies like Premier Rides use linear induction motors in the past as a launch mechanism. And, we've looked at Dollywood's Big Bear Mountain this year opening. The Vekoma multi-launch coaster, that's now using LIMs again. And even companies like S&S use air-powered launch coasters such as Dodonpa over at Fuji-Q Highland. There's a definite change away from hydraulic launches in the industry now to typically the LSMs. However, like I say, you also have air-powered and LIMs in there as well. And because of that, it is also meaning, similar to how defunct coaster manufacturers, these parts are harder to find and become more expensive over time. I think there's definitely aspects of that when it comes to hydraulic launches. We're seeing these parts be harder to find, become more expensive for the parks to maintain these coasters. And I think that's not a surprise as to why we're seeing some of these coasters be shut down or potentially relocated. I mean, Matagani, that opened at Lost Island theme park this year, that's a relocation from over in Sweden. And I think that could be a trend we're starting to see more of. Obviously, there was a very unfortunate accident on Top Thrill Dragster over the past few years, and that, it has caused the coaster to be SBNO since 2021. And we have seen recently with Top Thrill 2 that they're actually doing a complete revamp of this. After the initial launch on the original coaster, this was just a top hat into the brakes, similar to Stealth but on a larger scale. This is actually now going to be replaced with an LSM multi-pass launch, so you're going to go up the top hat, have a rollback, going to go through the launch again, your second launch this time, all the way back into a 400-foot vertical spike, and then you're going to go all the way back through again, your third launch this time, to go over the original top hat. So there we go. That's what's happening to Top Thrill 2. And then that begs the question for me. We've seen Xcelerator at Knott's Berry Farm have lots of issues this year. That has suffered from lots of downtime over the past few years. And I've seen lots of speculation online. Obviously, they're both part of the Cedar Fair chain. Now that Cedar Point is working with Zamperla in terms of adding the LSMs to Top Thrill 2, are Xcelerator at Knott's Berry Farm going to be getting a similar function to that now? We've seen, like I say a minute ago, this ride has been down and suffered from extended periods of maintenance issues for years now. This is a much loved coaster at a very busy Cedar Fair park. That can't stand. The chain will not be happy with that. If this goes really well, if this works well with Zamperla and their new trains, their lightning trains, are Zamperla going to be brought into this again? I think this is a really big point in the industry. These hydraulic coasters are phasing out. There's a reason now that people are saying Alton Towers replace Rita with a new Intamin multi-launch coaster, such as Velocicoaster, such as Tutatis. These fantastic rides which have opened in the past few years. These hydraulic launch coasters, which were top of the range, absolutely fantastic a decade or so ago, are now seen as slightly subpar compared to the modern day launch coasters and the new technologies, the introduction of LSMs on these coasters. If this goes well for Top Thrill 2 and Cedar Point, I really do think Xcelerator will follow suit using this. Why would they choose to remove these fan favourite rides, a bit like, Nemesis here at Alton Towers? If the park can keep these fan favourite rides that enthusiasts love, I think they want to do that rather than replacing it with something new. That's going to cost a lot of money to completely retrack a ride and completely, develop a new ride with manufacturers and then landscaping and everything. If they can keep part of the track, it's obviously a cheaper investment for the park as well. So I think if this goes well for Top Thrill 2, I think we'll also see Xcelerator follow on, get the same treatment. And people might say it's not the same experience and stuff in terms of how intense the launches are, and I can see that. But Thorpe, we've seen Thorpe just go now 12 years without a new coaster between the Swarm and Project Exodus, which will open in 2024. It's clearly a park which doesn't invest enough into coasters, and it will need new coasters. So if Thorpe in the future has the option to, build a brand new £30 million coaster up from scratch, or maybe spend 10 million and add a spike to Stealth, make it an LSM launch. Yes, the intensity of that 80 miles per hour in 1.8 seconds might be lost, but fans are going to love getting a rollback on the coaster, experiencing a vertical spike on the other side. That is a fantastic new experience, and it can be marketed fantastically well, and I'm sure the GP will love it as well. Personally, this is definitely something I can see catching on. If this goes well for Top Thrill 2 at Cedar Point, proves to be a good return on investment for the park, I can definitely see more and more of these Intamin hydraulic launch accelerator coasters being replaced with retrofitted with LSMs rather than being actually replaced. But what are your thoughts on the topic? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback down below. I'm very interested to see what your thoughts are on this. I know there's sort of mixed reviews on what's going to happen with Top Thrill 2 and how successful that will be for the park. You know, will the LSM launch feel anywhere near as good as the hydraulic launch? The rollback, it doesn't go all the way up to the top of the top hat. And, you know, when you go through the vertical spike backwards, you're not going right to the top. You know, there is a bit of apprehensiveness, I'm going to say, around how good the ride experience will actually be compared to Top Thrill Dragster, which was one of the most popular rides anywhere in the world, the original Strata coaster. But in my opinion, just because it's a slightly smaller investment for the parks than a brand new coaster, and the LSMs are a lot more reliable for the parks than the maintenance issues that are the hydraulic launches, I can see this definitely happening. And for stealth, I think it is definitely an option, especially the park is at with Thorpe not wanting to provide much investment into coasters over the past decade or so. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Once again, I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback down below. Subscribe to the channel for more. Thank you very much for watching.